being an organizer, it's so natural for me to think about service towards the community. So I myself feel awkward in those spaces where a guy will come to me like, oh, hey, can you lead me? And I'm like, like maybe another time, but like, I don't think it's appropriate right now. And I'll say that, or like, maybe at a practica, because,
I think I'm the most comfortable dancing with another guy when I see another woman dancing with another woman. All right, we are back, and here is another episode of Left Foot, Right Foot. Today, we're going to be talking about, should men follow? And it's an interesting one because I think I'm going to just share my bias that I started off dancing tango as a follower. I think I mentioned this before in a video earlier, that my tango journey started with a close friend of mine named Johnny. I've known him since college. We were fraternity bros, if you can believe that or not. We were in the same fraternity. And he got into tango, and I was like his crash dummy for the first, I would say, month and a half, I would say. And he would try all these moves, and I was pretty much just like, he wanted to work on his moves, and, we just had each other at the time. And so I was his crash dummy. And so I kind of learned the old school way where they used to have men only practicas, I guess, where they, work on stuff. And so I learned the old school way.
All right. Well, I started with leading, and I barely follow. I tried following like once a few times here and there.
Yeah, I would say you're better than the average.
Yeah, but it wasn't like I focused on following. It wasn't like I'm gonna spend 3 months, 6 months, and all I'm gonna do is follow. I'm not that person. I'm not a role switcher. I'm not a I would say my tango journey is just like any average person who walks in, starts as a lead because there's one guy and 5 girls, and just never looked back, And like and there was a time I tried to follow, like actively following classes, but then it wasn't well received either. So like some people would just go, yeah, no, I'm not gonna lead you. Even like some of the lady leads wouldn't lead me because they would just like no. It was almost like I mean, they weren't trying to be offensive, but it was just kind of like we're not gonna try to brush your what do you call it, your virtue signaling points or anything like that. They're just like, if you really want to follow, then follow. But like it wasn't like I was gung ho about it, and I think they might have got offended by that a little bit, just because it's just kind of like, it was like, oh, you're just trying to be a spectacle, and like, I wasn't trying to be, it was just, I was exploring, I didn't know what I was doing,
So I started at Argentine Tango as well, and so their big thing is that everybody switches, and so you lead and follow. And so again, even though I started with Johnny, we also started at Argentine Tango, and so I led in and followed at the same time.
Yeah, no, start with Edmundo, so... Started with Edmundo. Actually, technically, I started with Sergey. But that was interesting. It just started with full-on privates and everything, and then Edmundo and Caltech. So, there wasn't a lot of opportunity to follow.
So, should men follow? Absolutely. I'm going to tell you why. If you're a guy out there, I know it's going to be weird. Like, why am I playing the quote-unquote follower role or ladies role back in the day when we used to going to go men and women? Why you should follow as a lead or a guy that wants to lead, because when you learn to follow, you kind of understand what it feels like when somebody else leads you, obviously. And so you take that feeling and you're like, okay, I remember how bad that felt when that other person led me. What do I do? How do I not do that? And so I want to try to recreate that feeling, but something better, right? Because I know how rough that felt. I know how forceful that was. So now, how can I do the opposite and recreate that feeling in a different way? And so that's why I highly recommend that, I think every leader or guy, man, should follow, right? At some point in their time.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say, like, I have to throw a lot of caveats here. And what I'm going to say is that I think there's value in following for men, but I don't think it's necessary for men to follow.
Okay, why?
Well, because the thing is, and when I say that, like, when a lot of people think, oh, men need to follow, they're thinking like, I'm going to spend a whole hour for this class and just follow, right? And I think that it's more of, hey, for these 3 seconds, 5 seconds, or like whatever, feel this, and you can follow for 3 to 5 seconds just to understand what's going on the opposite side. I don't think it's necessary to develop a whole repertoire of being a follower and then knowing how to do the cruzada here, in the salida básica or everything like that. I think it's one of those things that you could experience, temporarily here and there to understand what you're doing. So a men's practica actually is very helpful, but I don't think it's necessary because I think when people start talking about the value of following, I generally see guys go in the deep end, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna show up to class in high heels and just be a follower, and I'm gonna dedicate myself to following for 6 months, 1 year, so I can understand I can understand all this before becoming a lead. And you can do that if that's what you want to do, but I don't think it's necessary, especially now, and when there are tons of people who will actually just help you. Like they'll help you, they'll correct you, a lot of ladies are a lot more vocal now and say, hey, that's really rough, I don't like when you do this or whatever, So if you have a good line of communication with your practice partners, and you can just switch for a few seconds and just be like, hey, this is what I feel when you do this. And they're like, okay, yeah, that sounds terrible. But it's not like you have to, embrace following where I'm going to follow for a whole tanda, like what I see a lot of people do, or be a generalist role switcher and to be ambidextrous or something like that,
Well, the only thing that I kind of would agree with you on is that I think there are certain circumstances at a milonga where if you're a guy and you choose to follow, I feel like sometimes that can be a little, I don't know the word for it, but it's a little self-serving when they're if you see a bunch of women sitting out and then you dance with another guy that's a lead as a follow, it's pretty much you are taking two spots that women could have had. Right, so it feels like a very selfish act. So in that sense, I do agree. In some circumstances, when there's such a huge balance disparity, then maybe not follow when there's a lot of women sitting out. And I often get very uncomfortable because a lot of people know that I follow and can follow, and so sometimes people ask me to dance. I'm just at a milonga and there's a bunch of other women sitting out, I'd rather not. Maybe at the end of the night when people have all left and.
But so it's interesting that you take that stance, and see I can understand that I take that stance because I subscribe more to traditional gender roles, and it's I'm not saying ladies can't lead or anything, but what I'm saying is I kind of subscribe to the traditional gender roles, and I subscribe to the idea of chivalry for men, and that's why I mentioned do that. But when there's a bunch of ladies sitting out, it's you're there to serve, the best, maximize your service to people.
Right.
But coming from someone like you who learned from Oxygen, where everyone dances both roles, if that's the case, everyone should know both roles. So it's interesting that you take that stance when and you feel uncomfortable when there's a lot of ladies out there, when they possibly could lead and follow themselves and be dual roles. So I just find that very interesting.
I think going back to the tradition, and I think traditional gets a bad rap, right? Yeah. Especially when you talk about traditional gender roles, there's a lot of negative stereotypes with that. But when you break it down to, like you said, a gesture, I feel like that's kind of the unfortunate thing for men in our society, right? It's kind of men in the past sacrifice these huge things for a lot of different reasons, but for a good amount of reasons for women, right? For the better part, right? Men sacrifice their lives by going to war. Men sacrifice their lives by building dangerous things. Men sacrifice their lives by hunting big animals, right? What?
No.
Yeah, it's true, right?
It is, but. But then everyone will say, well, it's modern society. You've got you've got a high-powered AK now, to shoot the moose. But,
yeah.
But
But I mean, it's the gesture. It's this gesture that we are trying to make this sacrifice for you. It's like the cat that goes out and brings back the mouse, right?
Yeah.
It's the gesture that counts.
Yeah, it is.
And so I feel like people get so upset about it, but that's the whole reason. It's like, why are you gonna look a gift horse in the mouth? Yeah, of course, you can go out and do it. You can go out and do whatever those things that I just mentioned, but it is a sweet gesture that we're trying to give. It's the thing that we want to give, right?
Yeah. No, I hear you. But it's just one of those things where I just find it interesting because I'm more of the traditional mindset, and I'm not a dual role person.
Yeah.
And since you're a dual role, I just thought it was interesting. But that doesn't detract from the value of men following. And I think it doesn't bother me. I guess it's one of those things. It doesn't bother me when I see two men dancing them along with a lot of ladies sitting out. It's just
really that doesn't bother you.
Well, because that's them. Like if they want to do that, that's
Okay.
There was a time where it did bother me.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I guess it's because I understand people are out there to have fun, and I value their liberty more than anything.
Okay.
So if that's what they want to do, to have fun, and they're serving their own interests, then sure. I'm not judging, and that's great for them. But for me, it's like, because
dancing with another woman. So if there's a bunch of other women leading women.
Yep.
I guess in that situation, I don't know. It's hard to say because I feel like a lot of those women are trying to make sure that these women that aren't dancing get dances. And so that's a different scenario, because then I realize, okay, they are trying to maybe assist the imbalance, right, of women sitting out, right? And so me dancing with another potential lead does not assist in the imbalance of the situation.
All right.
So I think I still feel.
All right. No, just asking.
Yeah.
But I mean, generally, I feel bad just when I look at the line of ladies just sitting out. I'm like.
I mean, I feel bad in general sometimes. I feel like it's a huge responsibility. I know I'm just one person, but I feel like, oh man, I can't sit out any tandos. I gotta make the rounds. I gotta keep going every.
So that's interesting. So what about practica? Like, how do you feel then? Like, I mean, because the practica is where everyone should practice, right?
Yeah.
It's not a Milonga where people are out there to have fun.
Yeah.
So does that change your ideas then?
It does. Yeah, it's a different environment.
So would you feel less comfortable? Or would you feel more comfortable dancing with a man?
In a practice setting? Yeah. I have no issues with
that. All right.
It's practical.
Yeah, and like same with me too. It's like if someone said, "Hey Rob, like I'm working on something. I want you to I want you to give me some feedback because it's because you understand what I'm trying to do." Then yeah, sure, not an issue. But then again, that could be like a 10-minute thing. It's not like a whole tanda, 2 tandas, whatever, And I think. Not even 10 minutes. Sometimes it's like a 2-minute thing.
You know what I will say? And this actually goes in a change of direction from this, but kind of transitioning. I do disagree with followers who want to learn the following role and then also try to lead before, getting their feet fully equipped with the follower role. Right, so that's the kind of, I was part of the oxygen structure, but I really didn't agree with it for first-time followers who only want to be followers.
Okay.
Right, so there's a difference. I know people are going to say, well, it's equal, right? So if you learn to follow and then you're a lead, what's the difference between someone trying to follow and then them trying to lead? Here's the difference. When I'm trying to lead, as a person who's leading the movement, I have to think ahead of time, I have to prepare, plan these things out, right? And then when I follow, my biggest asset is to be in the present moment with my partner. Of course, you want to do that as a leader as well, but even more so as a follower. You don't want to anticipate, right? And so that's one of the huge things in the beginning of dancing. A lot of dancers want to think, is it left, right? Oh, am I doing it right? I got to do this. And so they try to anticipate. Yeah. And so I think when beginning followers that really want to follow are forced to lead, they are forced to then try to think of things ahead of time, which is anticipating, right? So it's not the same. And so I don't agree. I think down the line, if you're a follower and you just want to learn more about the dance, kudos to, yes, pick up leading. If you feel like you've put a lot of time into your following archetype or whatever you want to call it, right? Or if you want to teach or you have other resources, these things further down the line. But in the beginning, to try to lead, but your main reason is to follow, I just think it does a disservice, honestly. I think it holds you back.
Okay. But for men, do you think like men doing like a dual role holds them back?
I don't, because again, like when you learn the following role, you are trying to be more present, and that is a skill that you actually can assist in your leading, right? Because as a leader, you also want to be present with your partner, not taking away, right? But as a lead, I'm trying to anticipate and think of, prepare and plan things out, right? And so that is a different mentality that doesn't really bode well for a beginning follower. You'll say like, oh, the advanced levels of following, sure, you get this level of, it's like, oh, I know what they're doing, I kind of feel like this, whatever, but that's like at the top tier of like following.
Okay, so like my whole thing with the whole dual role thing is that it's a lot of information at one time, where I think it's very different. And that's why I say there's value for men in following, but I think it should be done in microdoses, So it's kind of like, hey, like I'm gonna do this move, right? Like, and you're thinking about it, and then I might just go, hey, Derek, can you lead this like 3 steps for me so I can feel like, or can you follow this and you tell me what's going on, or you kind of like do what like interpret what I'm doing and so I could feel on the other side, and that's done in a microdose. But I think if it's the whole shebang of like the whole idea of being super present, being super, having your body there in the right place so that you can receive all the information, because that alone in the beginning is a lot of information, and then to go on the flip side on the same day, not even like and sometimes the same like within like 10 minutes, like here are all the Lego pieces to put this all together. I think that's way too much, and that's just it's almost like, to me, that's just as bad as giving somebody like 3 figures on the first day, rather than saying, okay, like here's 1 figure like the baldosa, and I want you to concentrate on this. This is the technique that you should be focused on. And I think when you're focused on too many techniques in the beginning without much context, it kind of falls apart. So that's why I say that's where I have a stance that I think men should learn how to lead and just lead, and then take following in microdoses when needed.
Okay. I can't say I don't completely, disagree. I think that there are elements of true. I agree with that. It's interesting.
Because it's just like I think there's this idea, especially not the idea, but I think there's this push to go to on the other side, because there's so much, it's just a role. It's not even a gender thing. It's a role thing, and it's like you keep hearing the whole like, oh, it's just the other side of the role. All roles are equal. It's the same technique. You move the same, but it's like at the same time, it's like, yeah, you move the same. You use the same technique to move backwards, right?
Yeah.
When men take the back step, the same technique as a woman taking a back step or a follow taking a back step. But how many times do leads take a back step?
Yeah, it's
so
hopefully not a lot. It's just leaving them along and navigating.
But that's what I mean. It's like, so yeah, it's the same technique and it's done reverse. But even sometimes when I do things in reverse, it's almost like it's a different mindset. So that's why
it definitely is.
Yeah. So that's why like I'm not saying I'm not discouraging it, but I would say that the reason why I say microdoses and stick to one thing is just so that to make things simpler and help you progress. And as you get better, like 1 year in, and you want to take 1 day of following, sure, have at it. But I think it's just too much information, and it gets very confused. At least for me, because I'm easily confused, and it's really easy for guys to be figure junkies. Maybe following might help, so you're more in the moment and present with your partner.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes like the whole figure junkie thing has to run its course too.
You gotta run out of. You just gotta wear it out of your system.
So maybe I don't know, but that's the thing that I worry about, is that sometimes people subscribe to this idea that there's no difference between a lead and a follow, and honestly I disagree. I think there is a difference, and I think the big difference is in where your focus is. you know, where the focus of the lead is to build the structure, to have the responsibility for safety, to, you know, to kind of conduct the idea. And I'm not saying that the follow doesn't have a voice, but in the structure of that, the follow can put her voice in, but at the same time, it's the focus is more about being present and to work within the structure and not like overpower the structure.
I mean, now that you're kind of like going further into detail, it makes me kind of think about it more in depth, right? Because I think about men even putting forth the effort to follow. I feel like you just, even like, you know how some people signing up for these prestigious marathons, the follower slots kind of get taken up. And so you see a lot of followers say, I lead also, right? But you never see a demand for followers, like guy followers, especially, you know?
You know, actually, I'll say, I was actually considering just to sign up as a follower, just to like, just to bring balance back, because sometimes, like, you know, okay, I'm gonna say something terribly controversial, you know, and because sometimes like I see people sign up as a lead, right, and they go there and they lead one tanda, and then follow the rest, and it's kind of like, are you really leading? You know, like are you really contributing to the role balance?
You're making it.
You know, it's like
there's a huge gender disparity.
Yeah. So
because I don't think I don't think I know any guys that sign up for as a follow.
I know, but what I'm saying is that like the whole idea of like role balance, like is like it's a giant loophole that you could drive a bus through. You know, and I'm not saying like, and I'm not saying that everyone, like all these people who like. I guess because there's no accountability to it, like there's no enforcement.
No.
So then, because the idea of the whole balance thing is like you're paying the premium so that it is balanced for everybody.
Yeah. So no one's sitting out. Ideally, everyone could be dancing at the same time.
So what happens is that, you know, you end up paying the premium, but the premium is broken. Like there is no premium. So it's just a facade that, you know, the perks are there. Like, how would you feel if like you spent an extra $50 for like, I don't know, like a membership at the theater, right?
Yeah.
Which is supposed to give you extra perks like
free popcorn.
Yeah, like free popcorn, right? But every time you go there, the popcorn machine's broken. It's like, why am I spending this $50 for? You know? And to me, it's the same thing. It's like, I'd say that's a pretty good analogy. Like you spent money to get something, and there's an expectation, but then you go there, and
it's not met.
It's not met. It's like it's totally broken. You know, it's one thing if I go to, you know, an event where it's balanced. It's supposed to be balanced, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's close. It's getting there. It's good. You know. But like maybe like the dance level wasn't as much as I thought it would be. That's just like, okay, it wasn't met, right? But this is more of like, oh my God, like I go there sometimes and it's like it's like a 1-to-3 ratio, and then like as a guy I feel super pressured because now it's like, you know.
And I honestly, it's actually better for us. We're actually complaining about something that actually benefits us.
It does.
That's because true. Like, yeah, all the people that sign up are mostly women that already know how to follow really well. Because let's put it this way: if you're signing up, if you're a lady and you're signing up as a lead, there's a high, I would say 95% chance that person is a really good follow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's beneficial for me.
It is beneficial.
So there's gonna be more women for me to dance with.
But okay, maybe because I'm a miserly like frugal person, right? But like that could have happened anyways without any role balance, without the extra charge. Like I'm being charged for something that's not enforced. It's like paying taxes and not having cops around.
Yeah. I mean, you're speaking from the other followers, right?
Well, I'm speaking for the other followers, but I'm also speaking for like my pocketbook. I mean, if I'm going to be selfish about it, yeah, it's like, you know, the premium is there because there's this expectation,
that's
right?
Supposed to be even.
Yeah, and so now I'm paying into a premium that doesn't work. Like it's
It
like
doesn't work for them, but it actually works for us, is what I was saying.
well, it works for us.
It works.
Well, yeah, but there's also too much of a good thing.
True. Okay.
I mean, because like, what if I want like? It sucks when you're tired and you want to sit down, and everyone, like, you got like 20 eyes looking at you, like, why aren't you asking to dance? I'm like, my feet hurt. Like, it's like, suck it up, suck it up. It's like, like sometimes it's like, can I just have a break? And like, I know, world's smallest violin, right?
Yeah, man up.
But here's the thing. But yeah, I mean, but really, it's me being miserly. Like, I'm paying for a premium, and the premium is for balance. If I didn't care for balance, I'd go to a place that didn't have balance, and but sometimes I pay for that balance, and that balance is being upheld, and it's kind of like, sure, I'll have more followers to dance with, and but again, it's.
So more men should sign up as followers.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like I
bring balance to the force.
Yeah, no, I'm really I would do it. Like I would seriously do it. I'm seriously considering it. Like just be early on, just like boom, because like if you sign up for a follower, you got to be one of the first followers to sign up, or else like you might get because like there might not be enough room for me to sign up. But no, I'd really consider it just because it's like as my own protest.
What do you guys think out there? Let us know in the comments. Do you think more guys should sign up as followers, or should we take up following, or in Rob's case, maybe not take up following, just stick to our designated roles?
Well,
right?
Microdosing.
Microdosing.
I would say microdosing for learning, for educational purposes.
Okay, fair enough.
But I mean, because I didn't say there's no value, man. I'm just saying, just don't overload yourself. Because I think,
and especially in the beginning.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing.
Both parties.
It's very easy to overload yourself. There's so much information.
But yeah, let us know in the comments what you think about this whole idea of following and roles and these kind of things. Let us know, hopefully we'll get back to you and have some ideas, or maybe you'll spark some ideas for ourselves. Who knows? But yeah, thank you all so much for watching our latest episode of Left Foot, Right Foot. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Left Foot, Right Foot. If you can, click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can keep up to date with us on our newest content.
It really goes a long way with helping us create more interesting and exciting content for all of you, and we appreciate all of your support. Thank you all so much.